function or nested if. So basically, logical functions are used whenever a user wants to take or to make a decision. So primarily, the use of logical functions like if, nested if, and or combination are used when the user wants to do decision making. Now we have a simple example, basic example for if, and then we will move towards the nested if so that I can clear your concept. So nested if or the if. Nested if means multiple ifs in one cell. So when you write more than one ifs in one cell, it is called nested if. And you can write maximum of 64 ifs in one cell. Okay? That will be called nested ifs. So nested if is not a separate function. It is a terminology that if a user puts more than one ifs in one cell, it is called nested if. And in the latest version, because in the earlier version the user needs to put ifs again and again, but now we have in the latest version we have ifs, which is exactly works like a nested if, but their arguments are less and effective also. So we'll start with the if it is very simple. First, let us read the scenario. We have two columns, student's name and their scores, and we have to take a decision, that is, if a student has taken more than 50 or equals to 50 marks, then that students will get a pass remarks, and if the student has got a score below 50, the student will get a result like fail. Okay, so in the if we have three function arguments. As you can see, the first one is logical test. Upon successful of the logical test, the value of if true will return in the cell, and if the logical test gets unsuccessful or fail, then the value false will return. So let's define. So if B2 is greater than or equals to 50, so we are writing in an Excel language that check the B2, it is greater than equals to 50. Then if this logical test is successful, we want pass. So we will write the word passed with an inverted commas, because it is a text, we will put pass in the value of true, right? And the vice versa definitely will be the fail, which will go in the value of false argument. Then we will close the round bracket. Now we have to copy and paste the function, and then all the results appropriately to the scores will be visible, so we can see that our deal has not passed. But if we manually, change the score of any other students, so definitely the result will get changed, right? So this was the simple ifs. Also note that we have few expressions which we use in if and nested if. So these expressions are like less than sign, greater than sign, equal sign, less than or equal sign, greater than or equal sign, and not equal sign. Now let's move towards the nested if example. Here we have a data set in which we have three columns: employee number, name, and region, and we need to allocate the bonus percentage in the cells based on the reasons. So there are multiple conditions, and based on multiple conditions, we need to check one by one. So if any reason in the cell gets true, that percentage will reflect in the bonus cell. Okay, so this is a kind of a looping nested. What's nested if does? It's do looping until we get the true result in the cell. How to write a nested if is like, let's start with the first logical test. If the C2 is equals to north, for example, we are checking that if C2 contains north, then provide 20%, which is in G5 cell, and we will make it absolute, so that once we complete this nested if, when we drag this formula downward, so the cell should not get disturbed, as we have previously cleared our concepts. regarding relative and absolute references in the first module. Now, here we have just a last argument, that is value of false, and we have still three criterias to be filled. Okay, so we will start one more if now again, and again we will check C2 equals to south. So if C2 contains this spelling south, it's not case sensitive. If you write it in capital letters, it will still go and match that word in the cell. So if C2 is equals to south, then the user wants 30%, right? And make it absolute by pressing 4. For the third condition, if C2 is equals to east, then we want 40%. And the last condition is if C2 is equals to west, then the user wants 50%. And now the last argument we will close for if false. So for example, if user writes an incorrect spelling or user leaves blank that cell, so we want a customized text like not available, which we will write in inverted commas. And remember that the number of brackets which are open in the nested if will be closed in the same quantity at the last. And we will copy and paste. So you can see that in one entry there is not available because spelling of the west is not correct. Right? So this was the concept of nested if. Thank you.